who exactly was Cain's wife? Where did she come from? And what's her name? These are some of the questions we're going to try and answer in today's video. There's a lot of speculation about the identity of Cain's wife because there's not much information in the Bible regarding her. Some of the interpretations are that she is from the land of Nod. Some say that she is Cain's sister. There are others who believe that Cain's wife is an angel, and still others who believe that Cain's wife is a descendant of people that existed on earth prior to Adam and Eve. Those last two, I don't see any evidence for those last two. The more common interpretations are that she is from the land of Nod, and I feel like the more common interpretation is that she is his sister. Let's take a look at Genesis chapter 4, verse 16. Then Cain went out from the presence of the Lord and dwelt in the land of Nod on the east of Eden. And Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bore Enoch. Many people who believe that Cain's wife came from Nod believe that there was already a group of people in the city, in Nod, established. And Cain went over there and took a wife for himself. But if we keep reading here, it says, and Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bore Enoch. And he built a city and called the name of the city after the name of his son, Enoch. So there wasn't a city there. He built a city. Well, I mean, I guess you could argue that there was a city and he built an additional city, but there is no mention that there was an already established city that was populated by people there at the time. Yes, we are naming this land Nod by name, which means it had a name. But we got to remember, this wasn't written at the time these events are taking place. This was written much later by Moses. So I wouldn't say there's any real evidence that Cain went to this populated area and took a wife from an already existing civilization. It doesn't seem that way at all to me. Furthermore, if we look at Genesis chapter 5, we see the genealogy of Adam. It starts off with Adam and says, and Adam lived 130 years and begot a son in his own likeness after his image and named him Seth. After he begot Seth, the days of Adam were 800 years, and he had sons and daughters. So all the days of Adam lived were 930 years, and he died. And then it continues on from Seth. No mention of Cain, no mention of Abel. So not all the births were mentioned. God told Adam and Eve to be fruitful and multiply. On top of that, again, it said Adam lived 130 years prior to the birth of Seth. So, like they didn't mention Cain and Abel, I don't think it's too much of a stretch to think that Adam and Eve had even more children in that around that 130-year span. Moreover, if we look at Genesis chapter 3, verse 20, it says, and Adam called his wife's name Eve because she was the mother of all living. So if Eve is the mother of all living, then we are all her descendants. And that would mean that there was no other population that God had created outside the Garden of Eden. We all came from Adam and Eve. Therefore, Cain had to have married his sister. If we go back to Genesis 4, it says, then Cain went out from the presence of the Lord and dwelt in the land of Nod on the east of Eden. And Cain knew his wife. It doesn't say that Cain found his wife in Nod. It just says that Cain knew his wife in Nod. So he could have taken his wife with him to Nod. Now, if we move away from the Bible and we take a look at the Apocrypha, specifically the book of Jubilees, it provides more detail. And I understand this is not a canonical text, so take it with a grain of salt, but I thought it was interesting, so we'll go ahead and read it. We'll start at verse 7 here. Jubilees 16, verse 7. And Adam and his wife mourned for Abel 4 weeks of years. And in the 4th year of the 5th week, they became joyful, and Adam knew his wife again. And she bare him a son, and he called his name Seth. For he said, God had raised up a second seed unto us, and on the earth instead of Abel, for Cain slew him. And in the 6th week he begat his daughter, Azurah. And Cain, here we go, and Cain took Awan, his sister, to be his wife, and she bare him Enoch. All right, so if we look at the book of Jubilees, it clearly is saying Cain took his sister to be his wife and then names his sister as Awan, if that's how you even pronounce it. So that's pretty cut and dry. But like I said, this is not canonical text, so take it with a grain of salt. But even if we're looking at just the Bible, there is no evidence that there was another population outside of the descendants of Adam and Eve that existed, which leaves us with the only logical conclusion that Cain's wife was his sister, because the only females on the earth were his sisters and his mother Eve. So that's going to be it for this video. Let me know your thoughts, your interpretations down below in the comment section. Who do you think Cain's wife is? And I'll see you all in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.